Hello there. Welcome to Book Talk. This is your host, Anthony Moirore. And at Book Talk, we get to hear of an author talk about his book or her book, as is usual. And today it's not an exception today because we have one guest with us who is a great guest. And I believe that we are going to really enjoy this session today. And the guest today is known as Rob Shallenberger. And I hope I got that right.
That was perfect, Anthony.
Now, a brief intro of who Rob Shallenberger is. And he's the CEO and founder of Becoming Your Best Global. It's a leadership training organization that is devoted to helping individuals and organizations achieve their maximum potential. And together with Steve Shallenberger, who Rob is going to tell us who it is, they have come up with a book known as Do What Matters Most. And I think that's important if we know how to do what matters most. So without taking more time, let's welcome Rob to the show. Welcome, Rob.
Well, thank you, Anthony, for doing this. And anybody who may be watching, first of all, thank you. It says a lot about who you are and the fact that you're willing to invest your time to be here. And I promise that we're going to make this worth your time. My hope is that, the next few minutes that we have together can be a really deep experience together, almost as if we were sitting across from each other in a campfire, sharing some experiences. And so I promise that we're going to make this worth your time, and I'm grateful for you being here.
Whoa, it's such a great honor to have you in our show this day. And before we get started into doing what matters most, please tell us a bit about yourself, Rob.
Yeah, just a little background. So I grew up in Utah in the United States, former fighter pilot, flew F-16s for 11 years and had the chance to meet amazing people all over the world and just had some incredible experiences. I traveled the world with Air Force One, working with Air Force One for a while. And then, as you mentioned, Anthony left the Air Force about 10 years ago and was fascinated with high performance. And these same ideas that existed in the fighter pilot world, I wanted to take those to the business world and to people in general. And so together, my father and I started a company, like you mentioned, called Becoming Your Best Global Leadership. And this is really founded on decades of research around what sets apart great leaders and high performers from everyone else. And so we'll get into some of the details of what that looks like today and why it's important for each one of us. On the personal side, I've been married for 23 years, have 4 children, ages 19 down to 11. Yeah. Oldest is a boy and 3 girls. My oldest son is now serving a 2-year service mission. And my wife says that means I'm girl trapped. So I've got all girls at home at this point, and I love it.
Oh, that's wonderful, wonderful, great. And that's quite good. And we can tell that you're having quite a great life. Yeah, and it's quite an honor. And you mentioned about being in the Air Force One. I mean, tell us a bit about that experience. I mean, being there, having to go to where the president has been going. Tell us a bit about it.
For the last year and a half, I worked with Air Force One as what's called an Air Force One Advance Agent. And our role, they take pilots for this responsibility because your job is to get Air Force One in and out of a particular place with no issues. So we go to places like Seoul, South Korea, Mexico City, anywhere Air Force One goes in the world, we would go out in advance 1 to 2 weeks and make sure that everything is ready. So all the coordination that would go into Air Force One arrives, we get it in, get the president off, and then get it out of there. And it was just a really cool experience. You're involved in something that it's pretty fun. One of those things that you're on the world stage and you want to have what you call a uneventful event where there's no Fox News or CNN type moment where you're on the news. You don't want to be on the news.
Wow. And that's quite a responsibility. I mean, being the one who's responsible for all that, we don't want to make any mistakes. No, so exactly. That's quite a great responsibility. And having been there, that tells much about you and how achieved you've been, how competent you are in whatever you do in leadership and in the training that you've been doing. So,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
and I'll just say one thing, Anthony. It's, if you look at each one of us, I've had the chance to meet with presidents of countries, 200 plus organizations all over the world. Like, for example, we met one-on-one with the president of Rwanda, President Kagame, in his office.
Oh.
And, no matter what a person's resume may look like, I want to acknowledge that we all have different challenges. Nobody's perfect. And, while it may seem like a great resume, we all have different things we're going through, and we're all united in this common cause of how do we become the best versions of ourselves?
Oh, yeah.
Some people don't want to do that, and that's okay. Some people do. And we're here today for the people who do.
Okay.
Who want to become a better version of themselves and face some of these challenges that we've all had in different varieties, and have some tools and resources that will help us go forward and find peace and happiness and joy and really a fulfillment in life. And it's not just something we talk about, it's mindset and a skill set. So, I just don't want to get caught up in a resume or a background. And I want to acknowledge that we all have different things that we're going through. And this is about moving forward and having some tools that will help us really become the best version of ourselves.
Oh, thank you very much. And you talk of it, overcoming challenges and being the best, looking forward to being the best version of oneself. And it's not everybody that is committed into improving himself or becoming a high potential person. So what percent do you say that is really committed to maximizing their potential and being the best of version of themselves, becoming their best?
Well, let me use a quote that I think can serve as the foundation for our conversation today,
Yeah.
and for anyone participating with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite quotes: good, better, best, never let it rest till the good is better and the better is best.
Come again.
In other words, let me say it one more time: good, better, best, never let it rest till the good is better and the better is best.
Oh, that's good.
We as humans are like elastic bands.
Mm-hmm.
Elastic bands were not designed to sit in a drawer. If they do, they go stale, they crack, they break. An elastic band is actually designed to be stretched.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that we as humans are the same way, and it's very easy in life to get complacent.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy to get comfortable. And in my opinion, that's one of the greatest hindrances to forward progress, is when someone thinks to themselves, I'm fine the way I am.
Yeah.
I'm good enough. Things are fine the way they are.
Uh-huh.
That's a really dangerous place to be in life. And that's why some people who've gone through these survival challenges where they've really had to struggle to make it rise to the top, because they've learned to fight. They've learned to battle and not be comfortable.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a big difference between settling and being comfortable and continually asking, what can we do to be better? So for example, a person who's in a marriage or has children, it's about them asking, what can I do to be a better parent?
Yeah.
What can you do to be a better spouse?
Uh-huh.
Whatever your profession is, what can you do to be a better manager or sales rep? And how about this? What can a person do to better show up for themselves, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
Yeah.
And so I would think that most people who are listening to this today are willing to ask that question.
Yeah.
What can we do to become a better version of ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, some people are not. And we got to acknowledge that people are at different phases and different points in their life. And though they may not be now,
yeah,
they'll be ready to ask that question a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a life event or something else. But right now I'm talking with the people who are willing to ask themselves that question.
Yeah, and it's good that you ask that question, because sometimes the problem or the challenge that we find ourselves complacent is that we don't have someone who's reminding us that we have some place to go, that we have an advantage. We have some space to occupy. We have a room to improve. If we have someone like you who reminds us that, yes, we have not reached our level best, then it's important.
Well, that's why I said in the beginning, I honor anyone who's here today watching this.
Yeah.
Because it says a lot about how you view your own growth.
Yeah.
And we all need this. This is why we'll get into this and do what matters most.
Okay.
This is why reading books or listening to audiobooks is one of the key habits of success. Successful leaders are readers.
Yeah.
43% of college graduates in the United States will never read another book the rest of their life.
Uh-huh.
This is why listening to podcasts and participating in things like this put us in a place where a seed can be planted.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. I love this phrase that says GIGO. And you could say garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
You know, if we sit in front of the TV 4 hours a day, garbage in, garbage out. We can't expect greatness if we're putting garbage in.
Uh-huh.
However, we can flip that and say greatness in, greatness out.
Ah.
And by reading books, by listening to podcasts, by doing things where we can grow knowledge, it's putting greatness in and then we can expect greatness out. It's like a computer. We're uploading files to the computer so that we can draw on those files.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a big deal to have some of these habits, is because it's not what we don't know that should concern us.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we don't know that we don't know. We know something, we can go out and get the knowledge. We can go figure out how to do it on YouTube or in a book or whatever. But if we don't know that we don't know something, that's a blind spot. And we all have blind spots. And so that's why we tune into podcasts like this. That's why we read books, is because it gives us a new skill set and mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Help us incrementally grow to become a better version of ourselves and take away some of these blind spots.
Yeah. And I like how you flipped it around. We've always been hearing, and now you talk of blind spots. The blind spots are things that we may not have been hearing, although they have been in existence. And so since we've not been seeing them, we may not have been applying them. This, how you have flipped out about the GIGO from garbage into greatness. And you know, it matters most, as you are saying, what we feed our mind on a daily basis, what we expose our mind to on a daily basis. And so when we are talking about garbage, maybe that's what sticks in our mind. So we need to flip it around, and instead of talking about garbage, and from today, I'm going to use greatness in, greatness out, not garbage anymore.
Well, and that's exactly it. And, you know, so most of us, Anthony, have things in our lives we want to improve.
Yeah.
For some people, it's health. You know, they feel like weight or cholesterol or blood pressure or anxiety or depression. For other people, it may be a relationship with a spouse or a son or daughter. For other people, it may be a sense of purpose. Like, you know, they're halfway, they're mid 40s or 50s, and they're like, what's my sense of purpose?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what can I still do? You and I were talking a few minutes ago, and I was in Kenya training some companies. 3 years ago, there was a 92-year-old CEO in our group who said, I can't wait to apply these habits and see what the best version of myself looks like. That's the right mindset.
Wow.
And here's what we're up against, Anthony.
Yeah.
Switching the gears a little bit to do what matters most.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us have these desires. You know, these are things that we have, these intentions.
Mm-hmm.
What most people are craving are the tools or the process to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've had these good intentions floating around in our brain for years. And it's how do you take these intentions and make them a reality? And so we started some research a few years ago, specifically focused on time management and productivity.
Mm-hmm.
Because really what most of it comes down to is time. What are we doing with our time?
Mm-hmm.
And we found that 68% of people feel like their number one challenge is how do you prioritize your time?
Mm-hmm.
And yet 80% of people do not have a process other than to-do notes or to-do lists and sticky notes,
Mm-hmm.
which are very reactive by nature. And there's a better way. And so from that research, we realized that most people universally are struggling with how do I manage and balance my priorities?
Yes.
How do you schedule your priorities and balance your time and all of these competing demands?
Mm-hmm.
What's a simple process people can use? And that's exactly why we wrote Do What Matters Most. There are 3 habits in this book that we just released a month and a half ago.
Okay.
That will empower someone to take control of their lives. And what I'm about to say is important. And lead a life by design rather than live a life by default.
Wow.
In other words, they can take control of their schedule to schedule their priorities rather than prioritize their schedule.
Uh-huh.
And it's a really empowering thing when someone can read this book and then apply the habits and take control of their life. And it doesn't matter whether you're that 92-year-old leader in Kenya or whether you're a 16-year-old just starting out.
Yeah.
These habits will help someone really prioritize their time and take what have been sitting as intentions,
Yeah.
make them a reality. Do you mind if I just share one brief story?
Yeah, sure, sure. I love stories, and I believe the viewers love stories too.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to hear this stuff, but it's another when we put it in the context of real people.
Yeah.
And let me just give you two examples of people that have applied these habits and what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
I just talked with a lady 2 weeks ago who read the book when it first came out. She's been applying these 3 habits for 6 weeks.
Okay.
Now, she was a little bit larger lady to start with, so I want to acknowledge that. But she said that she has lost 40 pounds.
Yeah.
She's got 3 medications.
Mm-hmm.
She started scheduling things with her children each week as a family that never happened before.
Yeah.
She's a leader in an organization. She's a superintendent in a large school district.
Mm-hmm.
She started meeting with her teachers and her principals. And she said, in 6 weeks, I've completely transformed my life, and I've never been more at peace and more happy than where I am today. And it's because she started applying the habits.
Okay.
A lady who's almost 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter where we're at. Anybody can do this.
Yeah.
And I'll just share one more example. Everyone listening to this is familiar with Pepsi, right?
Yeah.
The drink.
Mm-hmm.
We were meeting with their executive team, and one of these executives, who was about 60 years old, said, 7 years ago, my son and I got into an argument, and we haven't talked since.
Mm-hmm.
And because he applied habit number 3 in the book, which is in chapters 7 and 8 of Do What Matters Most,
Okay.
he started doing something called pre-week planning. It's a very specific process. It's simple and yet very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing his pre-week planning, he reconnected with his son that week. He made a call that he had not made for 7 years.
Yeah.
He said, as soon as we started talking on that call, we couldn't even remember what we had argued about 7 years ago. And now we talk every week and we're best friends.
Mm-hmm.
He went on to comment that on that call, he found out that he had 2 grandchildren who he didn't even know existed.
That's interesting.
He commented that, after he reconnected with his son, and now that they're now best friends, and he's showing up as a grandparent, he's having some of his best months and years as an executive at Pepsi that he's ever had.
Mm-hmm.
He feels like this weight that was on his shoulders is now off of his shoulders.
Yeah.
And so my point in sharing those 2 stories, Anthony, is it doesn't matter who we are.
Mm-hmm.
That the habits that we share and do what matters most are presented in a way that they've never been presented in anywhere in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple, and they're very powerful.
Yeah. And would you be kind enough to share with us these habits, or are they a secret?
One of the unique parts around Do What Matters Most is, I'll go through habits number 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Habit number 1 is to develop a written personal vision.
A written personal vision.
Only 2% of people have a written personal vision.
Yeah.
Habit number 2 is to develop roles and goals. That's what we call it, roles and goals.
Roles.
It's a term we trademarked, and I'll explain that.
Okay.
Only 10% of people have written personal and professional goals.
Yeah.
So what we learned right there in our research is that people talk about vision and purpose all the time.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about goals all the time.
Yeah.
But for as much as they're talked about, they're not being done.
Mm-hmm.
And people are still just floating around with these intentions in their mind.
Yeah.
So there's a real power in developing a very simple process that people can use to actually make that a reality, and not just have some sort of random New Year's resolution that is broken 2 weeks into the year.
Mm-hmm.
Habit 1, develop a written personal vision. Habit 2, set roles and goals for the year.
Yeah.
And habit number 3 is the most powerful, most important habit, in my opinion, a person can develop. And that is the habit of what we call pre-week planning. And that's what takes it down to the daily and weekly level where the rubber really meets the road.
Yeah.
Here's the uniqueness in these habits. Vision, goal, pre-week planning. We invite people to look through the lens of the 5 to 7 roles that matter most to them.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, you could be our sample, Anthony.
Okay.
Are you in a relationship with children? Like, what would be some of your important roles?
I'm a father of 2 boys, and I have a wife, a beautiful wife, if I may say.
So taking you as an example, one of your roles would be father, right?
Yes.
Mine as well. You have the role of husband.
Yeah.
You have the role of a business owner or a podcast, however you want to call that, but president, business owner, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And personal is also one of our most important roles.
Yeah.
Whoever may be watching or listening to this, think about your 5 to 7 most important roles in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then we invite you to develop a written personal vision for each one of those roles that is meaningful and gives you direction.
Mm-hmm.
As a former F-16 pilot, we always took off with a destination in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because what would have happened had we not? Who
Great.
knows where we would have ended up, right?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like in life, your vision is your destination. It's your North Star. It's your purpose. It's what you can connect with.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 people email me in the last 2 weeks who are in their mid 40s. And they said, you know, I felt like I was kind of at the halfway point in life. And I wondered if I'd already missed my prime. Was it already too late?
Mm-hmm.
And it's when they went through chapters 3 and 4 in the book. And that's where we talk about the power of a personal vision and really how do you develop it?
Yeah.
Because it's talked about often, but it's not really done. And the words you use and how you write it will make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So what I've heard from people twice in the last couple of weeks is it was such a powerful and emotional experience to go through and follow the instructions in chapters 3 and 4 and really develop this personal vision by role.
Mm-hmm.
What does the best version of you as a father look like? As a husband? Personally, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And so this lady who's lost 40 pounds and come off 3 medications that I just talked about, that was her starting point. She had to develop what does her vision look like for her in her different roles. And that was so motivating and so refreshing. It's what became her internal compass.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once you have that personal vision, the next step then is to identify the specific roles and goals this year that will help you achieve the vision. So what I'd invite you to do is come up with 1 to 4 goals that are worded correctly. So for example, we never use the words more or better. And chapters 5 and 6 in the book will have a whole specific list of examples by role of what those goals can look like that will set you up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And so let me just ask this, Anthony. I'm going to ask this rhetorical question for anyone who's listening to this.
Okay.
If you were to take those same roles that you just thought about, the roles that matter most to you, and if I was to ask you as a listener, how would you measure success in that role this year? What would be your response to that question? So, you know, say we have a listener who is an author. I know we have authors that listen to this. Maybe that's one of your roles.
Mm-hmm.
How do you measure your success as an author this year? That's what then becomes a part of your roles and goals for the remainder of this year.
Yeah.
You answer that question. And so it's really important, in my opinion, to read chapters 5 and 6 of the book, because 85% of New Year's resolutions are broken 2 weeks into the year.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is because of the way people word them. And so the wording you use matters. We have a template designed for you. You don't have to do this from scratch. It's all done for you. The only thing you need to do is sit down and actually take these thoughts that you've had and put them into the form of a goal. Can I share just one story about this, since we're talking about, I know there's a lot of authors that listen to this.
Yeah.
So this same thing that we're talking about here in these 3 habits, a personal vision, roles and goals, and pre-week planning, we do this with our children.
Yeah.
You know, we have to do pre-week planning every week. And we haven't talked about pre-week planning yet. At the beginning of the year, we have them sit down and do their roles and goals for the coming year. And so, you know, my daughters will have the role of sister, daughter, athlete, because they play soccer, student, and they come up with goals for each of those roles. And they're not perfect, our kids, right? They have their challenges just like everybody.
Yeah.
But it's awesome to watch them get focused on what matters most in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So about 4 years ago, my daughter, Bella, came up with the role of author. And that kind of caught my attention. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you wanted to be an author, Bella. That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, well, what's your goal then? And she's 11, so I'm helping her kind of work through this.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up with the goal of to write a children's book by December 20th.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's awesome, Bella. It's specific, it's measurable, it's a perfectly worded goal. And we decided to go to work on this. It became a father-daughter project, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So we called the book A to Z, The Best in You and Me. And what we did is we made it an illustration, and she went through the entire alphabet and started with A and associated a word with each letter. So A is attitude.
Okay.
B is beautiful. C is courage, and all the way through the alphabet.
Yeah.
And then she came up with a little quote that went along with each word. And then I took that quote and sent it off to an illustrator in India. He illustrated it and sent us back this cool illustration for each page. So for example, let's take beautiful. There's this page of a young girl. She's kneeling down. And the little phrase is, you are a beautiful person.
Mm-hmm.
Being beautiful is not just a look, it's a way to live. So be true to you and be beautiful. And that's what Bella came up with as a phrase.
Good one.
Then we decided to add a question at the bottom of every page so that a parent could sit down with their son or daughter or whoever and have a meaningful discussion.
Yeah.
At the bottom of that page, there's a question that says, what are some beautiful things about you? Under the word dream, there's a question that says, what are some of your dreams?
Yeah.
So Anthony, I know you have kids. Imagine asking your own kids those questions. What would be their answers?
Yeah, those are quite interesting questions to ask them.
They really are. It's amazing what your kids answer to some of those questions. It's shocking, their answers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bella's goal was to finish this book by December 20th. And I wish I had a picture that I could show you right here, but I don't. We finished that book on December 20th, right on the date. And it was a mad scramble for me to get that book printed that week so that we could have the finished copy by December 20th.
Okay.
And that night, I was so excited to take that finished book up and read it with my youngest daughter, Clara. Now, Clara has beautiful golden hair. She was like 6 years old at the time.
Yeah.
We opened the book to that page, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And we read that with her. And then I asked Clara, what are some beautiful things about you? And you know what her response was?
Yeah.
She said, Dad, there's nothing beautiful about me. I'm ugly. And I thought, what? I couldn't believe that the programming of the world had already crept into my young daughter's brain, and that at 6 years old, that's how she felt, that she was ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So for the next 2 weeks, we'd sit down each night and we would talk about some of the beautiful things about Clara and what made her beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And it totally shifted her way of thinking. Now, the reason I shared this example, Anthony, if my daughter would not have gone through her roles and goals, if she would not have come up with the role of author,
Mm-hmm.
if she had not developed that goal, there is a 0% chance that book would have been written.
I agree.
We're working on books for business, strategic planning and alignment, the 12 principles of highly successful leaders, do what matters most. A children's book wasn't even on my radar. And this may be one of the most important books that we've ever written because it was something we did together as a father and daughter.
Yeah.
And there are people in Kenya and Rwanda and the Philippines who have read it and shared experiences of, tearful parents sharing experiences they've had with their children reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And this all came from the goal of an 11-year-old in the role of author.
Yeah.
And so if an 11-year-old can do it, anyone can do it. And it's really a matter of having a process. So again, it's something that's talked about, but it's just simply not being done. And that's why chapters 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 in Do What Matters Most are so powerful,
Mm-hmm.
because they walk people specifically through how to do it. And it's all a person is left then to do is simply do it.
Just do it. And, just as you're saying, we all have big dreams. We all have imaginations and ideas that we can imagine of. But the most difficult part comes in the application of the ideas, the dreams and goals that we may have. Just doing it, that's where the biggest challenge is. So how would someone overcome that hindrance? How would someone go into action and make it happen?
Yeah, 3 answers to that.
Okay.
So number 1, read the book. I would invite everyone to get Do What Matters Most and read it so that you can apply the habits. We cannot apply a habit that we don't know. It goes back to our greatness in, greatness out.
Okay.
We're acquiring a new skill set. It's very simple and it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And read the book, especially chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then pre-planning chapters 7 and 8. That's number 1. Number 2, I invite people to go to our website, becomingyourbest.com, or take a free personal productivity assessment at BYB, Becoming Your Best, BYB assessment.com.
Okay.
And it only takes you like 8 minutes to take that assessment. And that gives you a good snapshot of where things are in your life today.
Yeah.
In other words, what are certain areas of your life that are ripe or ready to really be improved that could have a big impact in your life? Maybe it's your mind. Maybe it's your mental or emotional state. Maybe it's a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That assessment will very quickly point that out to you. And that's a great starting place.
Okay.
Because sometimes the question is, right, Anthony, where do we start?
Yeah, that's the question. That's the biggest question.
And so BYBassessment.com will give people a great starting point to really move the needle and have a big impact in their life. When you visit our website or the assessment, if you would choose to do it, we have monthly coaching programs, group coaching that you can join that helps with accountability and things like that.
Yeah.
You don't need those. Some people do. The most important thing though is just to start. Take the assessment, read the book, and then here's my final answer. Whether you're part of our monthly group coaching or not, either way, it's the habit number 3 that takes it down and makes it happen. That's why even people, the small percentage of people that have developed goals or a vision in the past, still oftentimes struggle to make them a reality. It's because how do you take those down to the daily and the weekly level? And that's why habit number 3 is the most important habit, pre-week planning. And pre-week planning, I'll just give you a very simple version of it here. I'm hoping that everyone will read chapters 7 and 8 of the book. You'll see all the research. You'll see all the tips, what a productivity quotient looks like and what that is, and all of the other things. For now, let me just give you a high-level overview of what pre-week planning is. When a person takes 20 to 40 minutes over the weekend at some point, and they sit down to schedule their priorities rather than prioritize their schedule. This is the actual process of leading a life by design rather than living a life by default. Being proactive rather than reactive. Transformational rather than transactional. The process is you look at your vision and goals and ask, is there anything you can do this week that aligns with your vision and goals that you need to work on? So for example, if one of your goals in the role of husband, Anthony, was to average 2 dates a month with your wife. If we're in the 3rd week of the month, like we are now, and you haven't been on a date, it's like, I probably need to make that happen this week. When will I do it? And that's why pre-week planning, that act, takes it down to the weekly level. So step 1 is to review your vision and goals. Step 2 is to look at your roles, same way you did with your vision and goals. So father, husband, it could be a mother, spouse, whatever. Listen to this step carefully. Step 3 is the one that sets this apart from everything else. And that is, ask yourself what you can do this week in each of those roles. What are specific actions that you can do in each of those roles that matter most to you? And then step 4 is assign a time to each one of those. And the expectation is never that you're going to accomplish 100% of what you plan. We'll explain why in chapter 2 of the book. So you don't need to have this expectation of perfection. If you only accomplish 60% of what you come up with in your pre-week planning, it will still be life-changing. And so I want you to imagine, Anthony, how powerful that would be. I've been doing this for 23 years now. We finally have refined the process to make it very simple. How awesome would someone's life be if they had a written personal vision that was meaningful to them? They had clear, specific roles and goals that they were working towards that year to achieve their vision. And then every week they sat down and they asked themselves, what could they do in each role this week that matters most to them? And how different that is than just randomly going into a week with a to-do list or some sticky notes. And it puts a person in the driver's seat. They're taking control of their schedule. They're scheduling priorities. And that's where little things like a note to your son or daughter start to happen. A date night with your wife, maybe buying her flowers. It's where, as a CEO or as a sales manager or whatever, we can start doing things that didn't happen before. And it's like that Pepsi executive who called his son. That was because of pre-week planning. He said, I never would have called my son had it not been for pre-week planning. I thought about it for years, but it wasn't until doing my pre-week planning that it actually happened. And so here's the final thought I'll share on pre-week planning. A person who has a balance of success stories across the many areas of their life will be 47% more productive in their professional life. And I think we all know that, right? We've all had personal issues in our life, and we know how mentally and time consuming that can be, when we're thinking about those things. Our promise is that a person that does pre-week planning consistently every week will increase their productivity by 30 to 50% and accomplish 800 to 1,000 additional things that they otherwise wouldn't have done this year. That's a lot. That's an extra 20 to 30 things per week that wouldn't have happened without these habits. And it's all with less stress. And that's what's exciting. So a person starts exercising. A person starts eating better. They start saving and earning more money. they start reducing their stress and anxiety and depression levels, and really start engaging and getting excited about life because they're consciously thinking about what matters most in each of their roles this week, and they start doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it, Anthony, that's the difference. It's no longer thinking about it. It's having a process to do it.
Yeah.
And if someone needs help with accountability, they're like, man, I love pre-week planning, but I just am not doing it. Then join our monthly group coaching. You know, it's only like $57 a month, but get some accountability, get a mentor, get a mastermind, or join a group that will help you be consistent with pre-week planning if that's the challenge. So my invitation is pretty simple.
Yeah.
Read the book, take the free assessment, bybassessment.com.
Yeah.
Start on a draft of your personal vision, your roles and goals, and commit to pre-week planning for the rest of the year and see what impact it has. There is zero to lose and everything to gain from this. And a person can only develop an opinion about it once they've tested it for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So that's my invitation. Come and see, test it, see what impact it would have in your life.
I agree to that. And I see a trend here, and I know it's going to help someone who's listening to this or watching us. Someone who's been saying, I can do it by myself. And I see a trend in these writings, in the book and in the stories that you're telling. Now, this book is written by Rob and the father. We have a book which Bella has written, and it's Bella and the father. And then we have an example, a story that you have told us of a father who's calling the son. What's your take on relationships? Me not saying I'm going to do it on my own and I should join Rob in order that Rob may help me. What's your take on relationships, and why should someone come to you?
You know, it's a very astute observation on your part, Anthony. That was very good. And you're right. The reason, you know, it's pretty easy to share professional examples. Mm-hmm. That's the easy one. People are used to thinking about that.
Yeah.
The whole point of Do What Matters Most is we're taking the lens to not only professional,
mm-hmm.
now we're expanding that lens to all the different roles in someone's life. And that's what makes it so unique and powerful, is people are not used to doing that. And here's why this is so important. Harvard did a study, and there's another book written on this.
Yeah.
Relationships are the #1 predictor of longevity.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the reasons why COVID was so challenging for people in 2020, is because it removed, for a lot of people, those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you start wearing a mask, you're no longer visiting or seeing people like you used to.
Yeah.
And one of my, in my opinion, it's one of the reasons why health and mental challenges skyrocketed in 2020, is because we didn't have those relationships like we had previously.
Yeah.
And there's some other reasons for it too, of course, but that was one of the contributing factors.
Mm-hmm.
So when these studies came out, they said there are 5 predictors of longevity.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, by far and away, relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, have a purpose.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That is habit number 1, is develop a written personal vision. It's getting clear on our purpose.
Yeah.
Habit, or numbers 3, 4, and 5 are diet, exercise, and sleep. What we eat, our exercise, and sleep. And someone that applies these habits, it impacts every one of those 5 areas.
Mm-hmm.
In our relationship, we start doing things with our children, our spouses, our friends, our peers that simply didn't happen before. When you come up with the role of friend, and you start consciously thinking about, during pre-week planning, what can you do as a friend this week? Who could I call or text? People don't normally think that way. And that's why it's just life as normal, day to day. And you'll suddenly start connecting with people who you haven't talked with for 5 years or 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You'll suddenly start having lunch with people, or whatever it is for you. Maybe it's just sending a text. But the point is, your relationships will improve.
Yeah.
Starting to make time for things that didn't happen before. Just like the Pepsi executive.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that lady who lost 40 pounds and started scheduling time with her family every week.
Mm-hmm.
I see this repeating pattern happen over and over. And in order for a person, in my opinion, and I hope this doesn't come across, I hope this comes across right.
Yeah. In
order for a person to truly be successful in business, they also need to be successful in their personal life and their families or their relationships. And I love this quote that I heard that says, no success in business can compensate for failure in the home.
That's a good one.
Now, look, when we throw out in terms like success and failure, it's not black and white.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I mentioned earlier, I had 2 emails this week over the last couple of weeks of people who saying, man, I'm in my mid 40s, my early 50s. Is it too late for me?
Yeah.
Am I already past my prime?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. So maybe things haven't gone the way we hoped they would go in life. It's not too late.
Yeah.
This is actually the perfect time to read the book and start applying the habits so that we can start applying that good, better, best mindset to the rest of our lives. Just like that 92-year-old Kenyan who said, I can't wait to see what my best looks like, you know, for the rest of my years. He's 92. He could have said, you know, I'm done. My life's already gone. No.
Yeah.
What is my vision at 92? That's what we're talking about. So yes, you're right, Anthony. I've used several relationship examples because if we will focus on having a balance of success stories in our life, everything about our life will equally improve. That includes taking care of ourselves. If we want to have, and wouldn't you agree with this, Anthony? If we want to have great relationships with others, that means we also need to take care of ourselves first.
Sure, definitely.
In other words, if we have good health, if we're feeling good emotionally, if we're in a good place spiritually,
mm-hmm.
we're going to be in a much better position to want to connect with other people,
sure.
to be with other people, to lift them up where we can help. If we're not in a good place ourselves, it's very difficult to reach out to others.
Yeah.
And so that's why that personal role is the most important role. It's not just about one role or the other. It's about all of these roles combined. And it's why it's so refreshing and it's so low stress to go through this process of vision, goals, and pre-planning by looking at our different roles. It's just such a great way to look at life. And it really encapsulates the title of the book. It's these 3 habits that help us do what matters most and develop relationships, take care of ourselves, show up in ways that we haven't at work. And that's why I use the words life-changing the way I do, because someone that applies these habits, it will be life-changing 100% of the time.
And I like the fact that you've put it in 3, because that's 3-dimensional. I mean, we see it in 3D. It's all around. I mean, the height, the length, the height, and the depth. So, yeah, it's quite wonderful. And we are quite enlightened by your book on Do What Matters Most, and for sharing with us these 3 habits. It's quite kind of you to let us know what is inside the book, but we should go and dig more in what is inside. So once again, I would ask all the viewers to connect with Rob on becomingyourbest.com. That's one of the websites, yeah? And the other ones were?
Yeah, so here's the ways. Anybody who may want to connect, we try to share, motivational quotes, just little things, pick-me-ups.
Okay.
Yeah. Motivate.
Yeah.
Find me on Facebook or Instagram, Rob Shallenberger.
Yeah.
You can look at our company, Becoming Your Best. That's on LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. If you want to go to our website to look at training opportunities, things like that, becomingyourbest.com. I'll just reiterate finally what the personal invitation is. bybassessment.com. Take the assessment, do what matters most and read it. You can listen to the audio version of it on Audible or wherever, or read it. And then if you want accountability and you want to really have someone that's going to keep you accountable and on course, you can consider joining our monthly group coaching, and you'll see that on the website, becomingyourbest.com.
Yeah.
That may or may not be applicable to you. You feel like you can do it on your own, then great. Just go do it on your own. But those are probably the best 3 steps: assessment, book, and then group coaching, if that's applicable to you.
Wow, that's very good. Very, very wonderful. And we are just about to end the show. But before we go, we'd like you to give us a parting shot.
Okay. I'll share with you one of my favorite quotes. I shared good, better, best already.
Yeah.
Let me just share. I'm going to wrap up with 3 quick quotes that I love. Is that all right?
You love number 3.
Yeah, the 3 is the theme of the day.
Yeah. Okay.
When talking about your personal vision.
Yeah.
This is something that's in our book. It's in chapter 3. Your personal vision does not need to change the world. It just needs to change your world. We don't need to be Elon Musk or whoever else. Now, maybe your vision will change the world, but that's not the expectation. It's that it changes your individual world. And your personal vision becomes the seed of your legacy. And And when we plant a seed in fertile soil, it has a chance to grow. If we don't plant the seed, it never has a chance to grow.
Exactly.
And the third and final quote is from Ella Wilcox, who said, "One ship sails east and another west. By the selfsame winds that blow, 'tis the set of the sail and not the gale that determines the way they'll go." And so I hope that this conversation that we've had today will help us at least convince you to read the book and apply those habits and test them in your own life. And what that will do is set your sail to catch that proverbial wind that's at each one of our backs. And no matter where you're at today, even if you're in a good spot, that it'll move you towards good, better, and best. And so thank you again, Anthony, for hosting this. Thank you for being here today. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day and a wonderful week.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rob. We are very honored to have you in our show. And it's been quite a great time with you here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Anthony.
And to the viewer out there or the listener, start with the destination in the mind and set your sail right and do what matters most. This is Anthony, and it's been a great honor. And bye for now. Until next time. Thank you very much. Bye.